Receipts are a concept unique to the pro wrestling industry. In no other profession is it acceptable to physically attack someone just for their incompetence. But in wrestling, punching someone if they mess up isn't just acceptable, it's very much encouraged. 9 times out of 10, stiff shots are accidental, but some wrestlers have track records of being unsafe or unprofessional in the ring. And in this video, we'll be looking at 10 times wrestlers have sent messages to their opponents with their fists. Here are 10 famous wrestling receipts, starting with number 10, Vader versus Ken Shamrock. MMA fighters coming into the world of wrestling have to learn the ropes backwards, so to speak. In MMA, they're taught to hit as hard as possible. In wrestling, they have to learn to tone down their strikes so they still look powerful but don't actually concuss anyone. For a lot of former MMA stars, this can be a jarring transition, as was the case with Ken Shamrock, whose legit fighting background didn't make for an easy shift to the squared circle. Shamrock was channeling strong style before strong style was a thing, and during his first ever match at WWE In Your House 15, he faced off against Vader, where his shoot style earned him a painful receipt from the 400-pound powerhouse. Vader wasn't a shoot fighter, but he had a reputation for being somewhat stiff himself. When Shamrock threw a few punches that broke Vader's nose, Vader responded with a brutal lariat that nearly decapitated the WWE newcomer. It was the first and last time Shamrock ever legitimately hurt anyone. Number 9, JBL versus Stevie Richards. Despite his on-screen achievements, JBL doesn't have a great reputation. He's a man of old-school locker room ethics, believing that newbies should be forced to pay their dues before being given opportunities on the big stage. Therefore, it was only a matter of time before he rubbed the wrong person the wrong way. Surprisingly, that person was all-around nice guy Stevie Richards, who in 2006 decided that he'd had enough of JBL's bullying and gave him one of the most unforgiving receipts in history. The Blue Meanie, Stevie's best friend, had real-life heat with JBL, which WWE then shamelessly turned into an on-screen angle. At One Night Stand, JBL recklessly shot on the Blue Meanie, bloodying his face and embarrassing him in front of thousands of ECW faithfuls. It was an unnecessary attack and a thinly veiled middle finger at the entire concept of ECW, and so ECW legend Stevie Richards did not take kindly to it. In a blow-off match on Sunday Night Heat between Meanie and JBL, Richards came down to the ring and caved in JBL's head with a chair shot that's still considered one of the most uncomfortable shots in history. We're not saying JBL deserved it, but, well. Number 8, Brock Lesnar versus Braun Strowman. On the rare occasions receipts happen, WWE tend to gloss over them. This was not the case with Brock Lesnar's brutal receipt against Braun Strowman, which was actually replayed over and over again during their 3-way match with Kane at Royal Rumble 2018. At one point in the match, Braun delivered some stiff knees to Brock Lesnar's face that caught him square in the head.
Strowman, that clubbing. Oh, wow.
Lesnar, visibly pissed off, sprung to his feet and sent a message to Braun Strowman in the form of a closed fist. The Beast Incarnate struck Braun right in the temple with something straight out of his UFC days, and unsurprisingly, Braun eased up immediately. Everyone knows that Braun isn't the brightest spark in the world, but upsetting a former UFC heavyweight champion and genetic monster like Lesnar is only gonna end one way. Number 7, Daniel Puder versus Kurt Angle, Hardcore Holly, Eddie Guerrero, and Chris Benoit. You probably don't recognize the name Daniel Puder, and that's because his WWE career was over before it even started. Puder was a contestant on WWE's Tough Enough, and during a brief appearance on SmackDown in 2004, he attempted to make a name for himself by shooting on another wrestler. But not just any wrestler, decorated Olympic wrestling champion Kurt Angle. Puder went into business for himself, locking Kurt in a genuine submission to apparently break his arm. Kurt managed to break free and keep his cool, but both he and the rest of the locker room were livid that Puder would try something so foolish. WWE then punished Puder by putting him in the Royal Rumble and letting Hardcore Holly, Chris Benoit, and Eddie Guerrero beat the living hell out of him before eliminating him in seconds. We never saw Puder again. Number 6, Ron Simmons versus Ahmed Johnson. Ron Simmons, aka Farouk, is mostly known as the guy who shows up in comedy segments and says, "Damn," these days. So it's easy to forget that he's not just a decorated wrestler, but a legitimate badass that you would not want to upset in real life. Forgotten superstar Ahmed Johnson found this out the hard way when, in 1996, Ahmed kicked Simmons so hard in a match that he lacerated Simmons' liver. Ahmed had been known to be a reckless worker, but damaging another wrestler's internal organs was a step too far. This injury put Simmons on the bench for 9 months, and when he finally returned, he was put straight back into a feud with the man who injured him. Simmons wasted no time getting his revenge. During his first match back, Simmons delivered the exact same kick that Ahmed put him out with, giving Ahmed 3 cracked ribs in the process. Simmons then continued to maul Ahmed in the ring, eventually putting him down for the 3 count. At the time, Ahmed was a white-hot superstar, but Simmons extinguished all of the heat in one match. Number 5, New Jack versus Gypsy Joe. Receipts usually take the form of a punch, a kick, or maybe a stiff elbow. Rarely do things result in such brutal beatdowns that the police have to get involved. However, ECW legend New Jack always took things a little too far. At an indie show in April 2003, New Jack faced off against the then 69-year-old veteran Gypsy Joe. Before the match, New Jack told the booker of the show that he was legitimately going to kill Gypsy Joe in the ring, and we can only speculate as to why. Shockingly, the booker let the match go on regardless, and when Gypsy Joe no-sold some of Jack's offense, the original gangster invoked his extreme roots in the worst way. New Jack laid out one of the most horrific beatings ever seen inside a wrestling ring. He first gave Joe a vicious elbow to the face, then threw Joe to the outside of the ring and rained down a series of attacks with various weapons and barbed wire. It was clear to everyone in the building that something had gone wrong because a lot of spectators tried to intervene and stop the senseless attack. The match ended in a no contest, and afterwards New Jack was arrested and charged with assault. Number 4, Kevin Owens versus Roman Reigns. Not all receipts are delivered immediately. Sometimes wrestlers bide their time before cashing in their chips, as we saw during the War Games match at Survivor Series 2022. The match pitted the Bloodline against Drew McIntyre, the Brawling Brutes, and Kevin Owens. At one point in the match, Kevin Owens slapped Roman Reigns so hard in the face that it left a noticeable bruise beneath his eye. Reigns, the consummate professional, finished the match as normal, but was said to be legitimately angry with Owens for delivering too hard of a slap, so he made sure to owe Owens one further down the line. Reigns kept his receipt on the back burner, and during a tag match with him and Sami Zayn against Kevin Owens and John Cena on SmackDown, Reigns delivered a vicious, stiff clothesline to Owens with 6 weeks worth of force behind it. Number 3, The Acolytes versus Public Enemy. JBL and Ron Simmons have both been on this list separately, so pair them together and you've got something of a receipt machine. Public Enemy had rubbed both the WWE wrestlers and Office the wrong way, refusing to do what was asked of them and certainly not having the body types that Vince McMahon craves. On Sunday Night Heat, the Acolytes were sent out as bona fide hitmen to take out the company's frustrations with Public Enemy. Every shot was stiff, including big boots, table spots, and chair shots. To this day, it's one of the most uncomfortable matches to watch in WWE history. Number 2, Vader versus Stan Hansen. Vader has definitely earned his status as a wrestling legend, but there's a reason he's on this list twice. That's because he was one of the stiffest workers of all time and had no hesitation in knocking people out if they upset him. And when you add equally stiff worker Stan Hansen into the mix, you've got a recipe for some hard-hitting receipts. In 1990, New Japan's Vader took on All Japan's Stan Hansen at an interpromotional event at the Tokyo Dome called Super Fight, and it resulted in one of the most uncomfortable moments in wrestling history. The two brawlers laid it all out, smashing each other with weapons and exchanging receipts like they were Christmas gifts. Before the match even began, Hansen accidentally broke Vader's nose with the bullwhip he brought to the ring. Later, during a brutal exchange of stiff punches, Hansen accidentally poked Vader in the eye, dislodging Vader's eyeball from its socket in one of the most gruesome images ever seen in a wrestling recording. But Vader popped his eyeball back in and continued the match. Talk about a true professional. Number 1, The Undertaker versus Randy Orton. This one's quite unique because it didn't actually happen. However, when a 300-pound locker room leader tells you that a receipt is coming, it's going to hurt a lot more than a punch ever would. On a 2005 episode of SmackDown, Orton delivered a brutal chair shot right to The Undertaker's skull that left him a bloody mess. Orton actually botched the shot, hitting Taker at an awkward angle, so the dead man set his sights on giving Orton a well-deserved receipt for his recklessness, especially as this was a time when unprotected headshots were being phased out. The two were scheduled to face off at the upcoming Armageddon pay-per-view, and in the weeks leading up to it, Taker allegedly told Orton that a hefty receipt was coming his way. Taker did indeed deliver a return chair shot, but protected Orton as much as he possibly could. When the match was over, Orton realized that Undertaker's mind games had been the real receipt. That concludes our list of famous wrestling receipts. There are plenty more out there to choose from, so if we missed your favorite, let us know in the comments below.